hometown stories from the heart of it all, and our folks have a lot to tell. We've got next door neighbors with remarkable lives. We're riding on a story carousel. So sit right back as we hear about their lives. Yeah, home is where our story begins. Families, neighbors, and friends, the love never ends. Right here in Miami Springs, right here in Miami, and Virginia Gordon's here in Miami Springs.
Hi everybody, I'm Buzz Fleischman, Miami Springs resident, and this is Hometown Stories. Today we're very proud, and this is going to be a really cool show with our friend Sydney Garton. Sydney has been here for a long time. She's been intimately involved in the city in many ways, including, we're sitting, hi Sydney, how are you?
Very good.
We're sitting here in the council chambers, and this is no strange area for you to be in, because you are you've been on the Historic Preservation Board.
Yes, for 43 years. Not 43, I'm sorry, 23.
23 years. Might as well be 43. You've been here for a long time.
Yes.
In fact, just to kind of kick the show off here, you're 92.
Yes,
And proud of that.
absolutely.
I've said it before, I'll say it again, you are my role model.
Well, thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about your history here in Miami Springs before we get to the things that you're doing now. But you were born in Kentucky.
Yes,
And-
Newport, Kentucky.
And raised in Cincinnati as well,
Yes,
in Ohio.
yes,
You graduated high school in Cincinnati,
yes, I did.
and at 15, you were doing something pretty cool with Crosley, and Crosley was the...
They were a war plant in the World War II. And they made, the division I was in was condensers and soldering, and I was Sydney the solderer.
And that was at the beginning of World War II.
Yes,
So, and we've heard about Rosie the Riveter, very famous poster, and about women working in place of men during World War II, helping with the war effort. But you were Sydney the solderer
yes.
at 15.
It was 15 or 16, it's been so many years, but
Yeah.
it was in the middle of the war.
Tell us a little bit give us a little history about when we entered World War II. What was it like? Because we had just come out of Great Depression. You were 5 years old when your dad died. That was
Yes.
1932.
Yes.
And that was the start of the Great Depression. What was life like for you there?
You mean during the Depression or
During the
World War
Depression.
II?
During the
The
Depression.
Depression was no one had any money. The government was very supportive of the foundations that gave poor children things. That's how I got my musical education. It was a foundation that allowed me to improve my skills
You were a
in
piano
music.
player.
And Wurlitzer, they had a program where they would give you a piano and send it to your house, and it was $52, and you paid for it $1 per week, and they gave you music lessons for a year. And at the end of the year, you kept the piano. And that was part of the one program they had. And then the other one was they got together with the University of Cincinnati, and they sent a professor of music to the Baker Hunt Foundation, which was the name of it. It's still around. And they were able to give us lessons in singing. So I learned to sing that way. So I was trained by a professor for free, because everything was like that, and the whole country was just very, very poor. Very, very poor.
But what a great situation. They gave you the piano. That's better than a BOGO at Milam's.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Oh yeah, wow,
Yeah.
they gave you the piano.
It was a claw leg piano, upright. It's not the one I have now, but it is the claw leg one.
Now you told me you have a 100-year-old piano in your home.
Yes, I have a piano now that my sister gave to me when I was 16, and it is a 1900. It's called an auto growl. It's an offshoot of one of the other pianos. It was made in Cincinnati, and it's an upright grand. The strings go all the way from the bottom to the top. And it's one of the few left, and it has it engraved in the metal, 1900.
Wow. So this is 2019. We're talking in the City Council chambers in December of 2019. So that's almost 120 years old. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I
Wow.
found something older than me.
Wow. Well, you know, so what was life like when we entered World War II? Give us a little historical background.
It was the most amazing era. I think I was very lucky to have lived through it, even though it was a terrible war and many people died and it was difficult. But the whole country was totally immersed in being some part in any way for to support it. Everything it's the war effort. That's what we do. It's the war effort. There's things that were done, the rationing, people didn't like it, but nobody fussed.
There were ration books.
Ration books, you got 2 pair of shoes a year. Gasoline was rationed. There were tokens to buy food with that were limited. There were certain tokens for certain things, but it was part of the rationing. We had ration books that we had, and coffee, sugar, all had to have little stamps that you had to give to get
That's
them.
right.
And all of that. And people, I never figured out why, but we used to take to the butcher shops. In those days, there were butcher shops. And the butcher shops would collect grease from cooking grease, and you'd take it to the butcher shops. I never found out why we did that, but we did it all the time. Oh, save the grease, put it in a jar, and take it to the butcher shop. I never knew why.
And to this day.
To this day,
That
I
doesn't
never
keep
knew
you up
why.
at night, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it's a very odd.
Yeah.
When I tell people that, they said, grease? And I
Grease,
said,
yeah.
yes. And we did. They said something about it had something to do with silk or parachutes or something, but I never was able to get a really solid answer. But everybody did it. Everybody did it. It was one of those things that was just all encompassing. It was the main goal for the whole United States.
It was a great effort.
It was a fabulous era to be born in and to live through. And I graduated from high school the year that Roosevelt died. He died in April of 1945, and I graduated from high school that year.
He was elected in 1932, a very astounding 3 full terms and the start of a 4th term, which no longer we have.
That's right.
But he was your president growing up.
The whole time I was in school, from the time I was in kindergarten until graduating from high school.
And after school, you came south to Florida.
Yes, I did. The year after, my family moved here and moved to 632 De Leon Drive right here in Miami Springs.
In 1946.
1946.
What was living in Miami Springs like in the late 1940s, early 1950s?
Surprisingly enough, except for the removal of some of the landmarks and things that were here then, the first thing I did, I'd never ridden a bicycle in the city, because I was in cities and farms and was unable to. And my sister and I would get on the bicycles and ride up and down the streets. I have a picture of us, the two of us. She was 20 years older than me, and I lived with her a lot of my life. But it was such a wonderful little town. At the time, I didn't know many people, and I went to work right away. And went to work for what was my first job? I think it was a telephone company. And over there, I do remember one of the things that struck me. There was a trailer park, of course, this was right after the war. There was a trailer park that was the next street, 2 streets over from where I live now. And it was called Victory Trailer Park.
Right here in Miami Springs.
Right in Miami Springs, and it was on East Drive. East Drive and LeBaron. And it is now where the school that was Glenn Curtis was. And that was a trailer park. And I had never seen a trailer park. There were no trailer parks in Cincinnati or that area or Kentucky. And it was amazing. And that's the reason when that school was built, they used to have little areas that had runways like on them, cement. And the cement was where they were, the trailers were sitting on there.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, and of course I didn't pay much at 19, pay much attention to things like that. It disappeared somewhere along the way. I guess probably when they built the school.
Glenn Curtis Elementary,
Uh-huh.
named after our founder, Glenn
Yeah.
Hammond Curtis.
Yeah, and both of my children went there, to Glenn Curtis Elementary.
So you've been here for, in Miami Springs, something like 70 years?
70 years. There was a brief time where we moved away from there after I married my husband. We couldn't afford a house here. And we moved to North Miami for a short while, but we came right back.
Because you
I'm
loved it
now-
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been in the house I live in now for 60 years.
Wow. Now you've got 2 kids,
2, boy and a girl.
boy and a girl. And tell us about your daughter, Gail Garton.
Yeah, my daughter is works for 101.5 Light FM. She's been there for 20 plus years. She's the PSA for the station,
Public service announcements.
and she also has a program for a midday program, and she's also the music director for the station.
So there was music in your family growing up, and you taught your kids, both of them, how to play piano too.
Yes, I did, and they both went on to play other instruments. Both of them. My son was the lead trumpet in the band in Miami Springs Senior High School, and my daughter, she wanted to play the drums, but they didn't want girls to play the drums in those days. So she played the flute for a short while and gave that up. But they both play guitar.
Let's go back for a moment when you were growing up, when you became the fastest typist in Cincinnati. Tell us about that story.
They had a contest in Cincinnati the year that I graduated, and for the children that were taking typing, and they said, we're going to have a contest, and the engineering department in the city of Cincinnati is going to hire the student who types the fastest. And I won out of all the high schools. I was typing 95 words a minute.
Astounding.
On a manual typewriter.
So you really had to press those keys.
Yeah, we really did,
Oh,
really
yeah.
did. And it was an amazing thing. And of course, the little story to that is when they won the contest, I had never met the people who were running it, the head engineer. So I went to the city hall and I walked in there and I says, "Hi, I'm Sydney," and I said, "I won the contest." And the engineer, he was tickled pink. He said, "We didn't want a boy typist, we thought you were a boy." So that's how I stayed. I stayed there a year until my family moved here. But it was interesting and I really did enjoy it. And actually, to this day, I have no fingerprints because of the manual typewriter and the ivory keys on my piano.
I'm not going to go there, but
Well, when I went to do volunteer work at the airport
yeah,
a few years ago, the FBI was taking my fingerprints.
Yeah.
And after 3 times, they gave up, and they said, you have no fingerprints. And I said, I think I can rob a bank kiddingly. And what happened, he said, don't worry, we have DNA these days. It was funny.
there you have it, a woman with no fingerprints. Don't you want her to join your gang? So Sydney, when you became involved in the city of Miami Springs, you were on the
Yes.
the Historic Preservation Board.
Yes, and I dearly love it. I've been,
You were still on the board
and I'm the chairman now.
at 92.
Yes,
Role model.
yeah. Well, my maiden name is Roberts, and you've heard of Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes,
Well, I've got to be related there someplace.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. So, and what else have you been involved in here in the city? I know that you took singing lessons.
Yes. So I sing karaoke. I've been singing karaoke now for probably over 20 years. I always did sing. I sang in the chorus in high school. And once again, we had a professor that came to our school and taught us. And I sang in the chorus with Rosemary Clooney.
Rosemary Clooney was a friend of yours in high school.
A very good friend. We belonged to the same sorority. We had parties in my house, and she was a close friend. She was 2 years younger than me, and unfortunately she did pass away. So.
Did you see anything in her that would lead you to believe that you would go on to great fame as a singer and
Well, we
actress?
all sang in the end of the year 1945, and we all sang in it. I was in the chorus with Rosemary, but her sister Betty was the soloist, believe it or not. But the two of them went on to be on the radio in Cincinnati, and they both eventually, well, the sister Betty moved here. Rosemary never did. She went on to go to other things, California and all of that. But she was a good friend, and I never followed up after I left. So I never carried on the relationship.
if anybody wants to go to the country club here in Miami Springs on any Friday night, they can hear you sing there as well. It's a very special moment when you get up behind that microphone and you belt out Broadway. What are your favorite songs to sing?
Well, the two that are the most requested are All That Jazz
Yeah.
and Hello Dolly. And they're both 5-minute songs, so they're very long. But they are, people sometimes call me Ethel Merman, because I have a voice like her. My voice is not smooth, it's very harsh. I think that's the Kentucky twang, I guess, that left me. But I do love to sing. I'm at home on a microphone. You give me a microphone and I'm happy. And I've been doing it for so long. As karaoke, it's just part of me, including my poker.
Let's talk about poker, because one of our previous guests on Hometown Stories, Tom Curtis, publisher of River Cities Gazette, was a poker player as well, and you've played against Tom.
I played against Tom, and sometimes we win at the same time. First and second, and like that. I do go every year to the tournaments given by the Moose. I belong to Moose too. I belong to the Rotary and I belong to the Moose. That's the two organizations I belong to locally. I'm very active in Rotary. I was there, I got off on another tangent.
No,
didn't
go
I?
ahead.
I was their secretary for about 6 years until I gave that up. I figured it was time. And I love doing that, and I'm still a member and a director of Rotary, and I love that. I've never held any offices at the Moose, but I did enjoy being there. I used to play cards there too, poker there. And so through the Moose charity, I go every year to Las Vegas, and they have a huge tournament with about 850 people. And my greatest achievement there is in the 10 years, 2 years I came in the money. And the one time I came in number 30 out of 850 people that played poker. And they sent me, the local Moose made a big plaque, and they gave it to me because they're selling their building. So I have the plaque now at my house where it has the picture of me at the poker table when I won the money. So I didn't win the top, but I won money, and I was happy about that. And I'm going again this year.
You don't want to play poker against Sydney Garton, I'll tell you that. Tell us what you really love about living here in Mayberry.
I tell people I'm leaving Miami Springs feet first. I will be here forever. My children no longer live here, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, no one lives here but me. But I love Miami Springs. It's been it's a big part of my life. Having been here so many years, you can't walk down the street without seeing someone you know. Hello, how are you? And even if you don't know them, you'll say hello to them anyway. And people are absolutely, the small town feel, I hope, will never leave this community. And I love it, and I will be here for as long as I'm here.
Well, with people like you living here, of course, we have a very special town. Miami Springs is very special. We are at the heart of it all.
Absolutely.
And if we ever had to leave the zip code, we will, but we don't want to.
No.
No, we don't want to.
I still want to stay here.
Yeah.
I still want to stay here. I love it. I'll never leave it. I've told my children many times, they say, well, Mom, maybe you should come live with us because I'm a widow now and everything. And I says, I'm not leaving. So
Let me ask you one final question. What is there that you would want people to know about you that they do not know? Is there something that you want them to know about you that they just don't know about you?
Well, I think most of the things, you know, what I've done and all of that. And I'm probably as open as anybody to everything. And I just want them to be as happy as I am to be here, to be alive, to be as healthy as I am, and to have many friends. And I have no anything that anybody doesn't know because I'm always talking anyway. So it's one of those things.
Well, thank you, Sydney. It's good to have a friend like you here in Miami Springs, and thanks for being on Hometown Stories today. Hometown Stories can be seen on Channel 77, on the city's YouTube page, in many platforms that the city has, Twitter, the Facebook page, the city website, and more. I'm Buzz Fleischman. Thanks for watching Hometown Stories, and thank you, Sydney.
Thank you, Buzz.
Families, neighbors, and friends, the love never ends right here in Miami Springs. Right here in Miami, and Virginia Gardens here in